The galaxy was shaking. From the farthest edges of the mapped space, a shadow emerged that had not been seen for centuries. Entire colonies disappeared without a trace. Fleets were lost without sending any messages, and worlds that were thought safe were suddenly under attack. Panic spread across systems, and the Galactic Council was forced to react. They sent out calls for help, hoping that anyone would come to stand against this new threat. Many species hesitated, sending only diplomats or vague promises. Fear gripped them, and pride stopped them from acting. But there was one species that did not wait. One species that did not hesitate. Humanity. Captain Daniel Hart stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at the stars that stretched endlessly in every direction. He had been a soldier for most of his life. He had seen colonies burn and friends die, but he had never felt this kind of anger before. It was deep, burning, and it filled him with purpose. Beside him, Lieutenant Grace Miller adjusted the controls, her hands steady and precise. She had been with Daniel for many missions, and she knew his anger was not reckless. It was controlled, focused. Samuel Carter, younger than most of the officers, paced quietly, his eyes sharp and restless. He had lost his brother in one of the early attacks, and that loss had shaped him. He carried a fire that no one could ignore. The human fleet was small compared to the fleets of the largest empires, but size was not the measure of power. It was the spirit, the will, and the anger that drove them forward. Daniel had called them together quickly, giving them little time to prepare, but they were ready. The humans were not waiting for permission. They were not waiting for orders. They were moving because they could not stand by while innocents suffered. In the council chamber, the alien delegates were gathered. Towers of shimmering metal, beings with eyes like liquid claws or tendrils they were used to control and order. They believed themselves above impulsive action, above the chaos of emotion. But when the humans entered, that calmness was challenged. Daniel's presence was commanding, his voice steady but filled with intensity. Grace walked beside him, silent but sharp, and Samuel followed, carrying the energy of youth that demanded to be seen. The delegates murmured, whispering that humans were unpredictable, emotional, and untested. They underestimated them, as they always did. Daniel stepped forward and spoke first. He did not bow, he did not beg, he did not ask for permission. He told them about the colonies that had been destroyed, about families who were gone, about friends and comrades lost, while the council debated endlessly. His voice carried across the chamber, clear and piercing. Grace added her voice, precise and cutting, pointing out that hesitation had already cost millions of lives. Samuel, though younger, spoke with the energy of someone who had faced death and returned to fight again. The council listened, some with anger, some with disbelief, but all were aware that humanity was not here to negotiate. They were here to act. The first reports came in quickly. An enemy fleet had attacked a remote colony, and while the council continued to argue, humanity moved. Daniel's flagship cut through space with precision, Grace coordinating strikes that found weaknesses in the enemy lines, and Samuel led a squadron that dived into the heart of the attack. Ships exploded around them and alarms blared, but the humans pressed forward. Civilians were evacuated, transports protected, and the enemy was forced to retreat. The human action saved thousands, but it came at a cost. Ships were damaged, men and women injured or lost, but they had succeeded where others had delayed. Word spread quickly through the galaxy. Aliens who had doubted humans now whispered in astonishment. A species small in number, underestimated and dismissed, had struck decisively and effectively. The council, however, was not pleased. They scolded humanity for acting without approval, for moving before permission had been granted. But the humans had no time for bureaucracy. The threat was immediate and action was required. Daniel's anger flared at their words. Grace's gaze hardened. Samuel clenched his fists, his mind filled with the faces of those they had saved and those they had lost. They would not apologize for doing what was right. Back on the bridge of the flagship, Daniel reviewed the reports. Every star system had messages of destruction, and each report carried a warning. The enemy was growing stronger. They were organized, ruthless, and they moved with purpose. Daniel knew that the humans could not face this alone, but he also knew that waiting for the council's approval would mean death for many more. He turned to Grace and Samuel, his expression grim but determined. Grace nodded, understanding without words. Samuel's jaw was set and his eyes burned with resolve. They were ready to push forward, to fight as long as it took, and to make the galaxy understand that humans could not be ignored. Supplies were prepared, ships repaired as best they could, and plans were made. The humans trained harder than ever, refining maneuvers, running drills, and preparing for the next encounter. Daniel spoke to his crew, telling them that courage and anger were both weapons, and together they would carve a path through the darkness. Grace reminded them to focus, to channel their fury into precision, and Samuel inspired them with stories of bravery from past battles. The energy of humanity spread through the fleet like wildfire, igniting hope and determination. As they moved to the next sector under attack, the humans encountered their first ambush. The enemy fleet had prepared for them, expecting a slow, cautious advance. Daniel's ships weaved through fire, Grace directed unexpected maneuvers that caught the enemy off guard, and Samuel's fighters darted through gaps in the formation to strike critical targets. Explosions lit the void, debris floated across the field, and yet the humans pressed forward. They saved settlements that would have been destroyed, rescued civilians trapped in orbit, and turned what seemed like certain defeat into a tactical victory. Every battle, every encounter, added to the humans' legend. The council began to murmur, realizing that this species could not be controlled, could not be dismissed. But the humans did not fight for recognition or praise. They fought because they could not stand idle while others suffered. Daniel's anger became a symbol of resistance, Grace's calm precision inspired confidence, and Samuel's daring actions became stories that spread quickly among both humans and allies. The galaxy was beginning to notice that when the call went out, and others hesitated, only the humans answered, and they answered with fire. As the first part of the campaign came to a close, the humans had achieved more than anyone expected. They had saved thousands of lives, inflicted significant damage on the enemy, and proven that they would not wait for permission to do what was right. Daniel stood on the bridge looking at the stars, thinking of all those lost and all those they had yet to save. Grace beside him checked the systems and status reports, her calm demeanor masking the tension she felt. Samuel leaned against the console, tired but unbroken, his mind racing with the next challenge. The human fleet had made its mark, and the galaxy had begun to understand that a small group driven by anger and determination could change the course of events. But Daniel knew this was only the beginning. The enemy was still out there, growing stronger with every passing hour. The council still underestimated them, and the humans still carried the weight of responsibility for those who could not defend themselves. He turned to Grace and Samuel, saying quietly, "We are the line that will not break. We are the ones who will answer when no one else dares." Grace nodded, understanding the burden and the resolve required. Samuel's eyes flashed with determination. The fleet prepared for the next battle, knowing that the challenges ahead would be greater, the enemy more ruthless, and the cost higher. Yet they would not falter because they were human, and only the angry humans responded to the call. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a vast field of darkness and danger, but also of hope. Every jump through hyperspace, every tactical maneuver, and every daring strike brought them closer to the truth. The galaxy would not wait, and neither would they. They were moving fast, acting decisively, and proving that courage was stronger than fear, and fury could be as precise as any weapon. Daniel, Grace, and Samuel led their people through fire and chaos, forging a path that would be remembered for generations. The galaxy had been warned, and those who watched from the sidelines knew that the humans were different. They were dangerous, relentless, and they were coming for justice, and the anger that burned in their hearts would light the way. The humans had made their mark, but the galaxy was far from safe. Captain Daniel Hart, Lieutenant Grace Miller, and Pilot Samuel Carter moved through the darkness of space with a sense of urgency. Their fleet had suffered losses, but each ship that remained carried the weight of hope for countless worlds. Every system they passed showed signs of fear, devastation, or both. The humans could see it in the way alien colonies moved quickly to evacuate, in the messages sent to their ships, and in the nervous whispers across communication channels. Yet no one else moved with the determination that humanity had shown. They were alone, and that realization burned in Daniel's mind. The council, sitting in their shimmering towers far from the front lines, debated endlessly. Some wanted to act, but pride and fear kept them paralyzed. Others argued that humans were reckless, unpredictable, and might make the situation worse. Daniel had long stopped expecting understanding from them. Grace watched the transmissions, her calm voice breaking the silence only when necessary. Samuel sat beside her, hands tight on the controls, his young face set in determination. They had already seen the cost of hesitation, and they would not allow it to continue. The next report arrived as expected. A colony on the edge of a critical sector had been hit. Panic spread through the civilian populations, and calls for help flooded the human fleet. Daniel gave orders immediately, his voice steady but urgent. Grace coordinated defense and offense simultaneously, finding ways to protect as many civilians as possible while countering the enemy. Samuel led the fighter squads into the thick of the fight, weaving through debris and laser fire, striking at targets that could cripple the attackers. Each victory was small but significant, and each saved life strengthened their resolve. The aliens in the council watched in disbelief. They could see the humans acting, striking quickly and decisively while the rest of the galaxy hesitated. Some began to feel envy, others fear, and a few were forced to reconsider their views of humanity. Daniel's anger was not just emotion. It was strategy. Every order he gave, every maneuver he planned carried with it a purpose born from frustration at inaction and the memory of lost friends. Grace's focus turned the fleet's fury into precise strikes. Samuel's daring attacks disrupted enemy formations and created openings that no one else would have attempted. Hours turned into days, and each engagement left scars on the human fleet. Ships were damaged, crew members injured, and some would never return. Yet the humans pressed forward, moving faster, thinking smarter, and risking everything. The enemy adapted, learning from each encounter, but they underestimated the humans' resolve. Daniel knew that raw courage alone would not win the war. It had to be combined with intelligence and timing. He relied on Grace for coordination, and Samuel for bold, unpredictable moves that kept the enemy off balance. Communication channels were filled with stories of human bravery. Aliens who had once mocked them now sent messages of thanks mixed with disbelief. Entire colonies began to see the humans as protectors rather than just another species. Yet the council continued to criticize, insisting that humans should have waited for orders, should have followed protocol. This only fueled Daniel's anger. He spoke to his crew openly, telling them that bureaucracy would not save the innocent. That action was the only true response, and that their anger was a tool they must use wisely. As they moved toward the next hotspot, the humans encountered a blockade. The enemy had learned of their approach and placed heavily armed ships in their path. Daniel studied the formations carefully, analyzing every weakness. Grace calculated probabilities and coordinated flanking maneuvers. Samuel volunteered for the riskiest position, knowing that speed and surprise could turn the tide. The humans struck with precision and audacity, breaking through the blockade and saving a colony that would have been lost without their intervention. Each move was calculated, but every action carried the weight of emotion and urgency. News of their victories spread quickly. Aliens who had once ignored the call for help now whispered of the humans' strength, their determination, and their unyielding will. Some sent envoys, cautiously offering support, but most remained hesitant, afraid of the consequences of involvement. Daniel's fleet pressed forward, knowing that hesitation could cost countless lives. Grace ensured that their defenses remained strong, while exploiting every opening in the enemy lines. Samuel continued to fly into danger, his youthful energy and determination inspiring others around him. The humans began to understand the true scale of the enemy's plans. They were not merely raiding or attacking for resources. They were systematic, targeting key systems to cripple morale and infrastructure. Daniel realized that speed and decisiveness were their only advantages. Grace's calculations allowed them to strike where the enemy least expected, and Samuel's daring made sure that no chance for victory was left unused. Together, they formed a triad of leadership that combined anger, precision, and courage in a way that none of their allies had managed. As the campaign continued, more humans joined from distant colonies. Soldiers, engineers, and pilots who had survived previous attacks found their way to Daniel's fleet, swelling their numbers and adding to their firepower. The anger that had driven them alone now became a shared purpose, a unifying force that brought together humans from across the galaxy. Each new arrival brought stories of loss and survival, further fueling the determination that had started with Daniel, Grace, and Samuel. The council continued to struggle with the reality of the situation. They saw humans achieving what no one else could, yet they clung to their pride and protocol. Daniel, aware of their hesitation, made decisions that bypassed council approval entirely, focusing solely on saving lives and stopping the enemy's advance. Grace coordinated multiple operations at once, using every resource available, while Samuel executed high-risk missions that struck fear into the enemy. Their actions were bold, sometimes reckless, but always effective. During one particularly fierce engagement, the human fleet faced overwhelming odds. Enemy ships outnumbered them 2-1, and civilians were trapped in orbit around a planet under siege. Daniel knew that waiting for reinforcements would be catastrophic. He issued orders without hesitation, coordinating a complex maneuver that relied on speed, misdirection, and sheer courage. Grace calculated trajectories for both offense and defense, ensuring that their ships could protect the vulnerable while striking the enemy's weak points. Samuel led the attack squadron, diving into the thick of battle with fearless precision. The battle was intense and brutal. Ships exploded, debris floated in the void, and every move carried the risk of destruction. Yet the humans held their line, saving the planet and its people. Their victory was hard-won, but it demonstrated the effectiveness of anger channeled into action. Daniel addressed his fleet afterward, reminding them that anger was a tool, a weapon that must be used wisely. Grace emphasized the importance of strategy and calm focus, while Samuel inspired the younger pilots with his courage and daring maneuvers. The humans had become legends across the systems. Aliens who had doubted them now sent messages of admiration and cautious support. Daniel, Grace, and Samuel continued to push forward, understanding that their fight was far from over. Each encounter brought new challenges, new losses, and new victories. They moved with urgency and purpose, knowing that hesitation could mean death for countless innocent lives. Their anger was not blind. It was a force that drove them to act decisively, courageously, and effectively. As they prepared for the next engagement, Daniel looked at his fleet and felt a mix of pride and sorrow. Ships were damaged, crews were exhausted, but their determination had not wavered. Grace coordinated preparations with her usual precision, while Samuel trained the new arrivals, sharing his experiences and hard-earned knowledge. They were a growing force, united by purpose and fueled by the knowledge that, when no one else answered the call, humanity would. The enemy was relentless, adapting to every move and seeking to exploit any weakness. Yet the humans continued to act with courage, speed, and intelligence. Daniel's leadership guided them through impossible situations. Grace's calculations ensured their strikes were effective, and Samuel's daring provided opportunities that no one else would attempt. Together, they moved through the galaxy, a small fleet with a large impact, proving that determination, courage, and anger could change the course of events. As part 2 of their journey came to a close, the humans had solidified their reputation. They were no longer just a small, reckless species. They were a force to be reckoned with. Daniel, Grace, and Samuel knew that the challenges ahead would be even greater, but they were ready. Their anger had become strength. Their courage had inspired others, and their actions had saved countless lives. The galaxy had begun to understand that when the call went out, only the humans would respond, and they would respond with fire, determination, and an unyielding will. The galaxy had started to take notice of the humans. Captain Daniel Hart, Lieutenant Grace Miller, and Pilot Samuel Carter moved with urgency through the star systems, following the trail of destruction left by the enemy. Reports came in of entire colonies erased, fleets destroyed, and communication networks failing. The council still debated and argued while humans acted decisively, and the contrast was clear to all who watched. Daniel stood on the bridge of his flagship staring at the stars, knowing that hesitation would cost lives. Grace beside him managed the fleet with calm precision, her mind calculating every possible outcome. Samuel, young and fierce, checked his squadron's readiness, prepared to fly into danger without hesitation. The humans received a distress call from a sector that had been quiet for decades. The colony there was under sudden attack, surrounded by enemy forces that were overwhelming the local defenses. Daniel made his decision immediately. Grace coordinated defensive and offensive maneuvers, ensuring that civilians could be evacuated while enemy ships were targeted. Samuel led a daring squadron to break through the front lines, striking at enemy ships that were blocking escape routes. Explosions lit the void as ships collided, debris floated across the battlefield, and alarms blared across the human fleet. Yet they pressed forward with focus and determination. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, alien delegates watched in disbelief. Their calculations had assumed hesitation from humans, expecting them to negotiate, stall, or wait for approval. Instead, humans acted with raw fury and precision. Some delegates whispered to one another, questioning their previous judgments. Others panicked, realizing that humans might be the only species capable of holding back the enemy. Daniel's anger was a weapon, and he wielded it carefully. Grace's calm direction turned that anger into efficiency, and Samuel's boldness kept the enemy off balance. Together, they were proving that numbers and protocol could not match courage and decisive action. The first few hours of the battle were chaotic. Human ships dodged enemy fire, returned strikes with precision, and coordinated evacuations of civilian ships trapped in orbit. Every maneuver was calculated, yet every action carried emotion and urgency. The enemy adapted quickly, sending more ships to intercept the humans, but Daniel anticipated their moves, using intelligence from previous encounters to outmaneuver them. Grace adjusted fleet positions instantly, calculating optimal paths for attack and defense. Samuel led the fastest and most dangerous missions, diving into heavily guarded sectors to disrupt enemy formations. The humans saved thousands of lives in that engagement. Colonists and civilians who had nowhere else to turn found safety, because humans moved when no one else would. Yet the council criticized them for acting without permission, for defying protocol, and for taking risks that could have ended in disaster. Daniel's anger flared, but he controlled it, channeling it into planning for the next encounter. Grace reminded him that they could not let frustration cloud judgment, and Samuel's youthful energy encouraged everyone to keep moving forward. They had become a beacon of hope in the midst of chaos, a force that proved action was stronger than hesitation. As the humans continued through the sector, they encountered enemy ambushes designed to trap them. Daniel studied the enemy positions, predicting their moves with skill. Grace calculated the most effective countermeasures, creating opportunities for attack while minimizing risk. Samuel volunteered for the most dangerous positions, diving into enemy lines to take out critical targets. The humans struck with precision, their anger giving them the courage to attempt maneuvers that no other species would dare. Each victory was hard-won. Each success came with a price, but they pushed forward relentlessly. Communication channels carried stories of the humans' actions. Aliens who had once mocked them now watched with a mixture of fear and admiration. The humans' reputation spread across the galaxy, becoming legendary for courage, boldness, and uncompromising action. Daniel, Grace, and Samuel worked together as a team, their leadership a balance of strategy, calm direction, and daring execution. Each battle taught them new lessons, each engagement strengthened their resolve, and each life saved reinforced their mission. The humans were proving that anger, when controlled and focused, could be a weapon more powerful than any fleet. During one intense engagement, the enemy attacked a vital communications hub that linked multiple colonies. The humans had to act quickly to prevent the loss of critical intelligence. Daniel ordered a rapid advance, sending his flagship directly into the heart of the battle. Grace coordinated the fleet with split-second precision, ensuring that critical points were defended and attacks were focused effectively. Samuel led a small strike team, weaving through enemy fire to disable key ships and create openings for the main fleet. The fight was brutal, with explosions, laser fire, and debris filling space, yet the humans held the line and completed their mission successfully. The human fleet grew stronger with each victory. Survivors from previous battles joined, bringing with them additional ships, skills, and knowledge. Their anger became a shared purpose, a unifying force that bound them together across the stars. Daniel spoke to his fleet regularly, reminding them of the importance of focus, precision, and courage. Grace ensured that their strategies remained effective, adapting to new threats and challenges. Samuel trained new pilots, sharing his experiences and encouraging daring moves when necessary. Together, they became an unstoppable force, their anger refined into an instrument of survival and protection. The enemy adapted as well, learning from previous engagements and attempting more complex strategies to counter the humans. Daniel anticipated these moves, using every piece of intelligence to stay ahead. Grace's coordination ensured that attacks were precise, defenses strong, and civilians protected. Samuel executed high-risk missions that kept the enemy guessing and allowed the fleet to gain an advantage. Each encounter reinforced the humans' reputation as relentless, decisive and willing to act when no one else dared. As they moved from system to system, the humans faced increasingly difficult challenges. Entire fleets attacked them simultaneously. Colonies were under siege and civilians were trapped in dangerous zones. Daniel pushed his fleet beyond normal limits, relying on strategy, courage, and the raw energy of anger to drive them forward. Grace balanced offense and defense flawlessly, while Samuel led dangerous maneuvers that created openings for success. Every saved life, every victory strengthened their resolve and demonstrated that humans were a force that could not be ignored. In one decisive operation, the humans had to defend a colony surrounded by enemy ships on multiple sides. Daniel calculated the approach, giving precise orders to every ship. Grace coordinated their positions, calculating attack paths and defensive coverage. Samuel led a daring strike directly into the heart of the enemy formation, drawing attention and creating chaos. The humans fought tirelessly, their actions saving countless civilians and preventing the enemy from gaining strategic control. Their success was hard-earned, and the cost was high, but it reinforced the truth that they would act when no one else would. The council continued to debate, but their words held less weight as news of human action spread. Aliens across systems began to see humans differently, not as reckless or emotional, but as protectors who could be relied upon in a crisis. Daniel, Grace, and Samuel continued to lead their fleet with focus, determination, and courage. Each encounter taught them lessons. Each battle honed their strategies, and each life saved fueled their anger and purpose. They moved forward, faster and stronger, with the understanding that hesitation could cost everything and that only the humans would act decisively. As Part 3 came to a close, the humans had solidified their role as the galaxy's unexpected champions. Their anger had been channeled into effective action, their courage inspired others, and their determination was unshakable. Daniel, Grace, and Samuel knew that the battles ahead would be even more challenging, that the enemy would adapt, and that the council might continue to resist supporting them. Yet they were ready, united in purpose and fueled by the knowledge that when no one else answered the call, humanity would, and they would do so with fire, precision, and unwavering resolve. The galaxy had begun to see that the humans were different, that their anger was a weapon, and that their actions could change the course of events for all who lived among the stars. The humans were no longer just a fleet. They were a symbol. Captain Daniel Hart, Lieutenant Grace Miller, and Pilot Samuel Carter moved with purpose, each mission sharpening their skills and burning their determination deeper. They had learned that hesitation would cost lives, that the council's debates could not save the innocent, and that only decisive action could stand against the relentless enemy. The galaxy watched them with a mixture of fear, respect, and disbelief. Every system they passed told the story of destruction left by the enemy and the lives saved by humans. The council continued to argue, some members pushing for restraint, others calling for cautious support of human operations. But Daniel had long realized that waiting for approval was no longer an option. Grace coordinated the fleet with unyielding focus, ensuring that each strike was precise, each defense strong, and every civilian protected. Samuel, young and fearless, led squads on daring attacks that disrupted the enemy, often risking his life to save others. The humans acted as one, their anger refined into a weapon, their courage unwavering. One sector had been entirely cut off, a cluster of colonies trapped with no communication or support. Daniel made the decision to move in immediately, knowing that delay meant death. Grace calculated every possible approach, finding paths through asteroid fields and debris that the enemy thought impassable. Samuel volunteered for the most dangerous routes, weaving his squad through heavy fire to strike at critical points. The humans fought with precision and determination, saving entire colonies from annihilation and proving that their anger was a tool that could be directed with strategy and skill. As the humans continued to act, stories of their bravery spread. Aliens who had once ignored calls for help now began sending messages, offering cautious support or at least observing with new respect. The council's words of disapproval grew weaker in the face of human successes. Daniel's anger was no longer just emotion, it was strategy, guiding the fleet through impossible situations with clarity. Grace's calm coordination ensured that every action had purpose, and Samuel's boldness created opportunities where none seemed possible. During one particularly fierce engagement, The humans faced an enemy fleet larger and better armed than anything they had encountered before. Entire columns of ships surrounded them, attempting to cut off their path to a vulnerable colony. Daniel studied the enemy, predicting their movements with skill honed through countless battles. Grace coordinated the fleet, positioning ships to protect civilians while maximizing attack potential. Samuel led a strike team into the heart of the enemy formation, creating chaos and forcing openings for the main fleet. The battle was intense, with explosions, debris, and the constant hum of energy weapons filling space. Yet the humans pressed forward, refusing to yield, and succeeded in their mission. Each victory strengthened their reputation. Daniel, Grace, and Samuel became legends not just for their courage but for their ability to inspire those around them. New ships and volunteers joined the fleet, drawn by the stories of humans who acted when others hesitated. The anger that had driven them alone now became a shared force, a unifying element that bound humans across the galaxy. Every addition to the fleet brought experience, skill, and determination, further increasing their effectiveness in battle. The enemy adapted as well, sending more complex formations and strategies to counter the humans. But Daniel anticipated these moves. Grace calculated precise countermeasures, and Samuel executed daring maneuvers that kept the enemy off balance. The humans struck quickly and decisively, each encounter leaving the enemy shaken and colonies saved. The anger that fueled them was controlled, focused, and used with purpose, making them unpredictable and dangerous. Communication channels across systems were filled with accounts of human bravery and daring. Aliens who had doubted their abilities began to reconsider, realizing that humans could act decisively where others would hesitate. Daniel's leadership guided the fleet through impossible challenges. Grace's precision ensured success, and Samuel's boldness inspired those who fought beside him. Each mission reinforced the truth that humans were not just reactive but proactive, willing to risk everything to protect life and oppose the enemy. During a critical operation, the humans had to rescue a group of scientists trapped on a research station surrounded by enemy ships. Daniel ordered an immediate advance, planning a route through a dense asteroid field to avoid enemy detection. Grace coordinated the fleet, ensuring that defense and attack were balanced for maximum effectiveness. Samuel led the strike squad, weaving through enemy fire and creating diversions that allowed the main fleet to reach the station. The operation was dangerous, the enemy relentless, but the humans succeeded, rescuing every scientist and preserving valuable knowledge. As their campaign continued, the humans faced increasingly difficult challenges. Enemy fleets grew larger, attacks became more coordinated, and civilians were often trapped in vulnerable locations. Daniel relied on strategy, courage, and the controlled power of anger to guide his fleet. Grace balanced precision and adaptability, ensuring that plans remained effective even under pressure. Samuel's daring actions disrupted enemy formations and created opportunities that no one else would attempt. Together they moved through the galaxy, saving lives and striking fear into those who threatened them. The council watched, still divided. Some members praised the humans quietly, while others continued to argue against their methods. But the humans no longer sought approval. They acted for the innocent, for the colonies under threat, and for the galaxy itself. Daniel reminded his crew that hesitation was deadly. Grace ensured that precision and efficiency guided every action, and Samuel inspired courage and daring in everyone he trained. Their combined leadership created a force that the enemy could not predict and could not ignore. As Part 4 reached its close, the humans had solidified their reputation further. Their anger, carefully controlled and directed, became a powerful tool. Their courage inspired allies and struck fear into the enemy. Daniel, Grace, and Samuel had proven that when the call went out, when others hesitated, humans would respond with decisiveness and determination. The fleet prepared for the battles ahead, knowing the enemy would adapt, that challenges would grow, and that the cost would increase. Yet they were ready, united by purpose, driven by the anger that had saved countless lives, and prepared to face whatever the galaxy threw at them. The story of the humans was spreading, and all who witnessed it began to understand that their resolve was unstoppable, and their actions were rewriting the rules of engagement across the stars. Captain Daniel Hart stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars stretch endlessly before him. Each system they passed told a story of both destruction and survival. Entire colonies had been lost, fleets destroyed, and lives shattered, yet humanity pressed forward. Daniel knew that hesitation would cost countless more lives. Beside him, Lieutenant Grace Miller coordinated the fleet with calm precision, every move calculated to protect civilians and strike effectively at the enemy. Samuel Carter, young and fearless, checked his squadron's readiness, ready to take any risk to save those in danger. The humans were no longer just a fleet. They were a force driven by determination and controlled anger. A distress signal arrived from a distant system. The colony there was surrounded by enemy forces, their defenses overwhelmed. Daniel acted immediately, giving orders with urgency. Grace calculated multiple approaches, balancing attack and defense to maximize efficiency. Samuel led a strike team through the most dangerous path, weaving through enemy fire to create opportunities for the main fleet. The humans fought with precision and bravery, saving thousands of lives and demonstrating that action was stronger than hesitation. The council watched, still divided. Some members praised humanity quietly, others criticized their methods. Daniel had stopped expecting approval. He knew the value of decisive action and the cost of delay. Grace ensured that strategy guided every move, while Samuel inspired daring and courage in those who followed him. The humans acted with a unity and purpose that made them unpredictable and powerful. In one critical engagement, the humans faced an enemy fleet twice their size, attempting to cut off access to a vital colony. Daniel analyzed the enemy formations, anticipating moves with experience and skill. Grace coordinated fleet positions, defending civilians and optimizing attacks. Samuel led the most dangerous missions, striking directly into enemy lines to disrupt their formations. The battle was fierce, with explosions lighting the void and debris floating across space. Yet the humans pressed forward and achieved victory. Their anger was controlled, precise, and used as a weapon. News of human actions spread across the galaxy. Aliens who had once doubted their capabilities began to watch with respect, some even offering cautious assistance. The Council's objections grew weaker as reports of successful missions and lives saved became undeniable. Daniel, Grace, and Samuel led their fleet as one, blending anger, strategy, and courage into a force the enemy could not predict. Each encounter taught lessons, honed strategies, and strengthened determination. During another operation, the humans had to rescue scientists trapped on a research station surrounded by enemy ships. Daniel ordered a direct approach through a dense asteroid field to avoid enemy detection. Grace coordinated the fleet, balancing defense and attack. Samuel led a strike squad, creating diversions that allowed the main fleet to reach the station safely. The mission was dangerous, yet every scientist was saved. Humanity had proven again that decisive action and courage could succeed where hesitation would fail. As they moved through increasingly dangerous sectors, enemy forces adapted, sending complex formations and attacks designed to trap the humans. Daniel anticipated these moves. Grace calculated effective countermeasures, and Samuel executed daring maneuvers to maintain the advantage. The humans struck quickly and effectively, saving civilians and leaving the enemy shaken. Their controlled anger made them unpredictable, and their courage inspired those around them. The human fleet grew stronger with every victory. Survivors from past engagements joined, adding new ships, skills, and knowledge. The shared purpose of anger and determination united humans from across the galaxy. Daniel spoke to his crew regularly, reminding them that hesitation was deadly. Grace ensured precision and efficiency, while Samuel trained new pilots and inspired daring actions. Together, they became a formidable force capable of confronting overwhelming odds. A decisive operation came when a colony was surrounded on all sides by enemy fleets. Daniel planned a coordinated attack, positioning ships strategically to protect civilians and strike at weak points. Grace managed simultaneous defense and offense, ensuring the fleet remained effective under pressure. Samuel led a strike squad into the enemy's heart, drawing attention and creating chaos. The humans fought tirelessly, saving countless lives and preventing the enemy from gaining strategic control. Their success reinforced the idea that anger, when channeled, could be a weapon of precision and power. Communication across the galaxy spread stories of human bravery. Aliens who had doubted them began to respect their abilities. Daniel, Grace, and Samuel continued to lead with focus and courage. Each mission brought new lessons. Each battle honed strategies, and each life saved strengthened resolve. The humans acted decisively, proving that when the call went out and others hesitated, humanity would respond with fire, skill, and unyielding determination. As Part 5 concluded, the humans had cemented their reputation as protectors and warriors. Their controlled anger, precise strategies, and courage inspired allies and struck fear into the enemy. Daniel, Grace, and Samuel knew the battles ahead would be even more challenging, but they were ready. Their fleet moved forward united, prepared to face whatever threats awaited, demonstrating that when the galaxy needed action, only the humans would respond, and they would do so with relentless determination and unwavering resolve. The humans had become a legend in the galaxy. Captain Daniel Hart, Lieutenant Grace Miller, and pilot Samuel Carter led their fleet through systems under threat, where enemy forces were relentless and civilians desperate. Each mission tested their skills, courage, and determination. Daniel knew that hesitation could cost countless lives. Grace ensured that every maneuver was precise, while Samuel led squads into dangerous zones to disrupt the enemy and protect the innocent. Their anger had transformed into strength, a weapon used wisely and decisively. A new alert reached the fleet. A massive enemy force was attacking a major industrial colony, aiming to cripple production and create panic across neighboring systems. Daniel acted without hesitation. Grace coordinated fleet movements to provide both defense and offensive strikes. Samuel volunteered for the most dangerous paths, weaving through enemy fire to disable key ships and provide openings for the fleet. Explosions lit the void, debris floated across space, and alarms blared across the human ships. Yet the humans pressed forward with focus and determination, saving countless civilians and preventing the enemy from achieving its objectives. The Council continued to watch and argue, but their words held little weight. The humans acted decisively where others hesitated. Daniel's anger, controlled and purposeful, guided the fleet. Grace's calculations ensured efficiency and precision, and Samuel's daring actions disrupted enemy strategies. The humans were proving that courage, determination, and action could turn the tide of war when hesitation failed. In one critical battle, the humans faced enemy fleets positioned to trap them and destroy a vital supply line. Daniel analyzed the formations and predicted their movements. Grace coordinated the fleet, ensuring civilians were protected while maximizing offensive power. Samuel led a squad through the most dangerous sectors, striking at key enemy ships and creating chaos. The battle was fierce, with every move carrying risk and every success hard-earned. Yet the humans prevailed, demonstrating that their anger, when guided by strategy and courage, was unstoppable. The human fleet continued to grow. Survivors and volunteers joined, bringing new ships, skills, and knowledge. The shared anger and determination united them, creating a force stronger and more resilient than any individual could achieve. Daniel addressed his fleet, reminding them that hesitation could cost lives. Grace ensured that every action was precise and calculated, and Samuel trained new pilots in daring but effective maneuvers. Their unity, courage, and focus made them a formidable force across the galaxy. The enemy adapted, deploying larger fleets and more complex strategies. Daniel anticipated these moves. Grace calculated countermeasures, and Samuel executed high-risk missions that kept the enemy off balance. Each engagement saved lives, strengthened alliances, and further established humans as decisive protectors. The humans struck swiftly, acted courageously, and protected those who could not defend themselves, proving that their anger was a tool of action and strength. During a daring operation, humans were tasked with rescuing civilians from a planet under bombardment. Daniel planned the approach using speed and misdirection to outmaneuver enemy defenses. Grace coordinated the fleet, ensuring maximum efficiency and civilian safety. Samuel led the most dangerous squad, weaving through heavy fire to create openings. Explosions rocked the planet. Debris floated in orbit and alarms rang across the fleet, yet the humans succeeded, saving every life. Their controlled anger allowed them to act decisively and effectively. As the humans advanced, more species began to take notice. Aliens who had once doubted humanity now watched with respect and cautious admiration. The Council grew increasingly frustrated, unable to deny the humans' successes. Daniel, Grace, and Samuel continued to lead, blending strategy, precision, and courage. Every encounter reinforced their reputation. Every life saved strengthened their resolve, and every victory sent a message. When no one else answered the call, humans would respond. The enemy grew desperate, launching massive attacks aimed at overwhelming the humans. Daniel's fleet met them head-on, using strategy, coordination, and daring to turn the tide. Grace ensured fleet movements were flawless, balancing defense and attack. Samuel led strike teams directly into enemy formations, creating chaos and opportunities for victory. The humans fought tirelessly, their anger refined into a weapon of decisive action, saving civilians and preventing strategic losses. Throughout the campaign, humans continued to inspire and protect. Each mission brought new challenges, but Daniel, Grace, and Samuel remained steadfast. Their fleet became a symbol of hope, courage, and action. Aliens across the galaxy began to see that humans would act when others hesitated, that their controlled anger and bravery could change the outcome of conflicts, and that hesitation was no match for decisive will. As the final battles approached, the humans faced the largest enemy fleet yet. Daniel calculated every move, predicting the enemy's strategies. Grace coordinated the fleet with unmatched precision, balancing defense and offense while ensuring civilian protection. Samuel led the most dangerous operations, disrupting enemy lines and creating opportunities for victory. Explosions lit space, ships collided, and the humans pushed forward relentlessly. Their anger, controlled and purposeful, drove them to act decisively, saving countless lives and securing critical victories. The enemy was defeated, systems liberated, and civilians saved. Daniel, Grace, and Samuel stood together, their fleet battered but victorious. Humanity had proven its strength, courage, and ability to act when no one else would. The galaxy had witnessed that only the humans responded with decisive action, that their anger could be refined into a powerful tool, and that their determination could overcome overwhelming odds. The story of the humans would be remembered not for recklessness but for bravery, precision, and unwavering resolve. When the call went out, only the angry humans answered, and they had changed the galaxy forever.